not one-dimensional. There's so many different ways of attaining love, different stages of love, different ages where you can fall in love. Barzakh's trailer is already going to attract a certain kind of
Sure.
people watch this. It may not be like, oh, everyone's going to run to it, because it's a bit weird, it's a bit different, it's a bit confusing. But it was very important for Fawad to do this role. Again, I keep saying that because people need to see his range. I mean, even in these other, I'm with him in the Netflix project and a Sony Live project. And that dynamic is different from Barzakh, more similar to Zindagi Gulzar Hai, but it took me 3 years to shed the image of Kashaf out of me and out this belief that I am Kashaf. I don't talk much on set. Fawad doesn't talk much on set. We're quiet, introverted people. We are very comfortable with one another in terms of feeling comfortable enough to say, do you want to try it this way? Or can I try it this way? Or can you read the scene 100 times with me? You know, he has 3 kids. He's always thinking about, what is it that I want my kids to see me in?
Hi, Sanam.
Hi, how are you?
All good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Yes. So, Sanam, I had the honor of watching the trailer of Barzakh, and it's so beautiful to even look at. It's shot so aesthetically. Of course, the story, I think, is the main driving factor. The trailer opens with this one scene, where they talk about love and fear. Do you, as a person, also think, as an actor, also think that the two are interrelated?
Love and fear? Yeah, of course. It's a vast space also, because love for who? Love for a lover, love for a child, love for a sibling, a parent, a friend, your home, your people. And so you fear that. You fear not being loved by either one of these. You fear it may be taken away from you. You fear it may not meet your expectations. And you fear taking risks to obtain it. So therefore, fear and love are definitely two aspects that coexist.
Absolutely. I think another interesting thing that I personally felt was this old man, and the fact that he's seeking, he's looking for his love, and who the others feel she's already died, but of course he's very hopeful about it. So, usually romance as a genre is something that's limited to the young actors, to the youth. I think this, in a very special way, is trailblazing. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. It's even today when we see some shows that explore love between two people in the older generation, it's really sweet because it's nostalgic. That's the kind of love you aspire to have maybe when you're older, or you see your parents in that, or you wish you saw your parents in that. There's so many emotions that flood to the top when you see love between older people, or an older person's perspective on love. And so in this, that's not the only journey, though. That's why Barzakh is really special, is because it explores different aspects of love. Love between siblings, parents, children, like I said, the people, your land, your home, your ideology, your faith, all of those things. So this is one aspect, and I'm glad that it was explored. And I always enjoy seeing a little bit of romance between the older couples. And Asim loves to do this. Even in Cake, he had that. The love between the parents was the romance in it. There was no romance anymore. Parents' love. So even in this, he's picked, the old man and his love, except it's a crazy kind of love that is unacceptable by everyone, whereas that one was acceptable. So, yeah.
I'm very happy you actually brought up Cake, because it's like one of my favorite films. I'd watched it, and I remember spreading the word around, my friends, my family. I told everybody that this is a film that everybody, must watch, because it's I think so relatable. Every layer of it, it's so relatable. Of course, there was Cake, there was this Barzakh now. As an actor also, do you think this genre of dysfunctional families really fascinate you?
Yeah, for sure, because we all belong to a family. We all live with family at some point. We all are really shaped by who we are, is really shaped by what our relationship with our family members growing up was. So for me, family dynamics are always really interesting. because you can really trace back to a person's core personality of what went right and what went wrong based on their dynamics with their siblings and parents and how they were at home in most cases. And that has always intrigued me.
And coming back to the trailer of Barzakh, I think this element of magical realism, that's something that really caught my attention. Sanam, what was your first reaction when you came to know that there's going to be this element of it? And did you also have this apprehension as to how the audience is going to receive it?
Yeah, I was like, Asim, you're mad. What are we doing here? Who's going to get this? Why are you doing this? Why do you have to make it so complicated and confusing? Even we'd get confused. Wait, we'd have to go back and read the episode and then read it in order. And for us, it was really confusing because we'd be shooting location-wise. So it was back and forth. And I'd be like, wait, is this before the event or after? So have I transformed into this yet or that? Do I read? So we'd be really confused because it's so intricate and confusing. And I'm sure Asim would also get very confused when he was writing it before he handed in the final draft. But that's what makes the project more exciting. It's like there's a show called Dark, which is one of my all-time favorite shows. But it was so confusing. You really had to be engaged and follow it. Otherwise, if you tune out for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, you've lost where the track is going because everything is so connected and so fine-tuned and so nuanced. And I think Barzakh is a little bit like that in terms of you can't lose focus. You really have to keep up with who's what, when is this, and it's the whole thing takes, the whole event or what's happening is over the course of 4 or 5 days. So you really have to follow and keep up with what's happening. And that's what keeps it challenging. That's what's interesting. And when else are you going to be able to do something with a little bit of magical realism in it?
Absolutely.
You don't always, those are not roles or scripts that come your way often. So I'm just glad that it was Asim who did it.
Yeah, talking about the love story in Barzakh, and of course there was Zindagi Gulzar Hai. We cannot forget that. I mean, Sanam, you and Fawad have set our standards of romance so high, and I can speak on behalf of a lot of Indians here. Uh, Growing up, looking at the romance, what you saw on screen or in books, let's say, did that impact your notion of love as well?
In while doing Zindagi Gulzar Hai?
No, I mean, for you, while you were growing up, the things that you saw on screen, love stories on screen or in
Yeah.
books.
Oh, books and movies, they create this one-dimensional perspective on what love is, happily ever person, and बचपन से आप एक किसी को imagine करते हो, फिर अपनी शादी हो जाती है और शादी के बाद जिंदगी बन गई है. So when I was growing up, yes, that was my impression. Also because I had happily married parents. And so actually they were my first impression. And
Okay.
then books and films and all of that. And then with time and age and with books and films, you realize that love is not one-dimensional. There's so many different ways of attaining love, different stages of love, different ages where you can fall in love, different ways to honor love. So my perspective did change and is ever evolving. Love is a constant evolution.
Yes, absolutely. We have seen you in ensemble, cast projects before, and there were parallel leads also, but your character has always been very meaty in them. Sanam, from the time that you had started out, in the Pakistani film industry till now, how do you really look at the evolution of let's say, become better now, more inclusive?
It's definitely become better. It's not there yet at par, but it's definitely making waves. The representation is definitely more etched out. Producers, makers, writers are definitely more clear about it. They understand the importance of it. They're few and far between still. There needs to be a lot more. But I guess you work with what you have. There's no point complaining and whining. Just do it. And so people are doing it. And if I could write, I would write roles that are female-centric. But for now, I'm happy to be playing those roles that are already written. And there are definitely more characters that are being developed for women. It's just a matter of having society and the industry kind of get on the same page as the creative.
Right. I mean, Churels was a stunning example of that.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. The
Yeah.
risk for both producer, writer, director, I mean Asim, and the cast. But it's important. You need to tell those stories.
Sure, absolutely. It's very interesting. Actually, the audiences are really excited to see you back on screen with Fawad Khan, and I'll have to talk about it. But can you tell us a little bit about what's the dynamic like your character shares with his in this particular project?
So I don't want to spell it out for everyone. I think that's something that people should watch and discover themselves. But it is a very different dynamic from what you've seen us in. And I think this in all the interviews is that I think intelligent audiences that will watch this and the kind of what it Barzakh's trailer is already going to attract a certain kind of
Sure.
people to watch this. It may not be like, oh, everyone's going to run to it because it's a bit weird, it's a bit different, it's a bit confusing, may not be for everyone. So I'm hoping that crowd that comes to see the show online and on the app will understand and will enjoy the nuances in the performances and will really forget about Kashaf, Zaroon, Fawad, Sanam, and will just be drawn into this world of Barzakh. And so you may forget kaun kya hai, and you will be just totally involved in these dynamics of these 4 or 5 people that have come together and then the people that are around them. So you're in for a surprise. It's a completely different dynamic. But it was very important for Fawad to do this role. Again, I keep saying that because people need to see his range and how brilliantly he's done this role and how he is also an actor, not just a hero, a very actor. So you will get to see a very different side of Fawad. So I think आप Zarun को भूल जाओगे और आप शरियार इस character में घुस जाओगे and her dynamic with all of them. She's the one main female character amongst these 3-4 men. So that's interesting to see how she maneuvers her way through these guys, both the Fawad, Salman Shahid, Sajid Hassan, and the other support cast.
Yeah, right. But were there moments on set of Barzakh where the two of you sat and reminisced about the good old times of shooting Zindagi Gulzar Hai? Did that happen?
No, that was 10 years ago. I don't think you dwell into the past. You shake hands and you're happy to work together again. And you brace yourself for people's reactions, and you try your best to do something different. You bring a different kind of chemistry because the dynamics are different. I mean, even in these other, I'm with him in the Netflix project and a Sony Net project. And that dynamic is different from Barzakh, more similar to Zindagi Gulzar Hai, but again, totally different. It's a totally different feel, approach. And that's, I mean, if anything, we discussed how do we not go back there? How do we make, in one of the projects, that's all people want to see. Okay, you want to see that dynamic? How do we make it more modernized, more contemporary, more relatable for today? That was also 10 years ago, made and written another 10 years ago or something, I'm sure. So relevant. And also, you don't want to keep regurgitating the same thing. We are different people. We have evolved as beings. So, audiences को अपनी वो खुशी, I think, दूसरे project से मिल जाएगी. लेकिन ये project करना बहुत ज़रूरी था हम दोनों के लिए इन किरदारों में, because it took me, like I've said before also, it took me 3 years to shed the image of Kashaf out of me and out this belief that I am Kashaf and people can only see me as that. Otherwise, they won't be able to understand any other of my roles. It was hard for me to roll because Kashaf was so strong. But Kashaf and Darun are so strong. And so if I ever work with Fawad, we have to make sure to break that in some way, give it in where we can. And again, we're really lucky that we've gotten these 3 projects where we can take you back to that feeling, throw you off completely from that feeling. And then there's one more project that we have, the 3rd one, where we can, it's just a completely another different dynamic. So it's really interesting, and I'm really looking forward to all 3 of them, because it's a real pleasure to work with actors who are really passionate and serious about what they do. And, Fawad is definitely one of the really talented ones. And an intelligent actor who really
Yeah.
focuses on the characters and the layers and works well with co-actors. So I hope everyone is really intrigued by these
Yes.
roles.
Absolutely. But the off-screen equation between the two of you, solely as actors, let's say, or even as colleagues, do you see that changing from then to now?
Oh yeah, that we worked for the first time in that one.
Hmm.
Everything was very new for us. I don't talk much on set. Fawad doesn't talk much on set. We're quiet, introverted people. So magic would happen when action would happen. Otherwise, we do our own thing. And then on set, in between takes, we'd be like, should we do this? Should we do that? Are you okay with this? Are you okay with that? We'd laugh at something silly one did, and then you carry on. And then, of course, 10 years later, and over the years, of course, we've been meeting. I'm much more mature. He's much more mature. We
Hmm.
know we are very comfortable with one another, in terms of feeling comfortable enough to say, do you want to try it this way, or can I try it this way, or can you read the scene 100 times with me? I don't have to be like, will he be okay if I ask him? No,
You're
of
right,
course not.
right.
Colleagues, and you need that comfort and trust in it to be able to perform in a certain way on screen. So no, like that, we have a very good working relationship because we really understand, again, each other's strengths, each
Hmm.
other's weak. We know what we can do to have the other person react a different way that works. So that dynamic is also there. So that in terms of a working chemistry and camaraderie, that's very strong. Um, I don't know if we have a similar way of working, but we are definitely comfortable enough to hash out characters. And then, of course, one talks about what is the future of cinema like? What is the future of acting like?
Yeah.
What do we not want to keep doing? We're also older now, more mature. He has 3 kids. He's always thinking about what is it that I want my kids to see me in, and how will they
Sure.
be for it.
Sure.
So, and then that's really interesting. I'm like, yeah, okay, you need to do roles like this, and he wants to. So obviously, this is all we do. We're either with our family or we're acting. So our time is consumed in literally just in 2 parts: home
Hmm.
life. But in that work life, it's not a desk job. So we're constantly being stimulated by our co-actors, by our directors, writers, the team. And I think that's important for people who are introverts like me or Fawad to get out and be vulnerable and literally exposed our
Yeah.
emotions to people, because that helps us evolve and grow and be more comfortable with expressing ourselves.
Sure.
Uh, but yeah, our off-screen chemistry is definitely a source of support, mutual respect, and there's a good trusting bond between us in terms of work because we've done so much work together now.
Sure, absolutely. It's very interesting, Sanam, what you said as to, you had to actually take 3 years to shed off the image of Kashaf for you to be, for people actually to look at you as another character. And I'm really happy, to with the thought that you both are going to do other projects where the dynamic is going to be completely different. Having said that, Zindagi Gulzar Hai was like such a huge hit, and one would want to milk the success of a show like that. Tomorrow, if let's say you are offered a sequel to the same, would you want to do it?
A sequel to the same wouldn't bring the same magic because now they're married. Once they're married, it's boring. बच्चे भी हो गए इनके तो उनका
Mm-hmm.
कितना वो type की नोक झोंक वाला romance हो. I think it's important to not drag something that did well. I'm
Sure.
not particularly a fan of sequels
Hmm.
uh, or remakes of something great that's already been done. I like to savor and hold on to those precious moments and shows and projects and move on to the next one.
Sure. Very lastly, I think the last few years have been great, for Pakistani cinema when it comes to, getting a kind of a global exposure. Let's say there was Joyland, I think, which was an entry to the 95th Academy Awards. There was Mola Jat that did so well, globally at the global box office. Where do you see Pakistani cinema today on the global map, Sanam?
Well, my film Umro Yar, A New Beginning is out, and that's doing really well right now in the international market and locally. It's the first Pakistani superhero almost based on a character that the subcontinent is very familiar with, and our parents' generations more so, if not us. His name was Umro Ayar, and it's from the of Amir Hamza ki Dastan, which was this fictional character from the Mughal Empire times, comes from Persia. He's like a trickster, court jester, but also a knower and a guider who has these special powers. So we've taken that old school character and contemporized him. And now we have, and the VFX is at par with any international film. In fact, we're all blown away that the VFX is so on point. I don't know if it'll ever be released in India, but if ever in Dubai or something while it's still on, Umro Yar, it's the first Pakistani superhero film. That's out Abhi. It came out on Eid. So to answer your question, I see Pakistani cinema going in all different directions because, Maula Jat was one of the most expensive films. Umro Yar is another one of the most expensive films. The VFX on both films was incredible. So I think now we are able to push boundaries and we are able to experiment. You just need the finances.
Sure.
Storytelling is also developing, and it's only been able to develop, and we've only been able to get here because we've been practicing. It's a very small industry. It's not, the cinema here in Pakistan is very small. So I think with the practice over years, we're kind of getting there and making a mark. Those filmmakers who have gone abroad and gotten a training in writing or filmmaking obviously have more direction and more structure and know what works in the international market or in the festival market. So they're able to create content that really shakes people and makes its mark on an international platform like Joyland. So I think that's why Maula Jat also, it was already a cult classic, huge success that was rebooted, remade. Again, that's important because it was such an old film that I think the newer generation now needed to be familiar with. Same for Umro Yar, a forgotten Purane Zamane ka literary character, fictional character, has now been reinvented for aajkal ke bacche to familiarize themselves with, and young parents and older people or people who did know about Umro Yar to relive that magical experience again. So I think we're going in good places.
Absolutely. No, more power to you. Hope to see you in many such projects. And good luck for Barzakh. I'm hoping this is also going to sort of transcend boundaries and reach out to a lot more people.
I hope so. I hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoyed making it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.